my daughter was seeing something that we couldn't see. Eventually, we came face to face with him. I discovered that we weren't the only ones in our neighborhood that was experiencing paranormal activity in our home. I will tell you the official and historically documented records about the truth of what lays underneath the Wild Wings community. Hello darlings, it's me, Christine D'Amore. So this is going to be part 3 of my real haunted house series that you guys have been wanting to hear. As you guys know, before I film any of these videos, I always try to call whichever family member was there at the time to get a recollection of the paranormal event that occurred at the time.
And then it seemed like he was coming down by the front door too.
So this
I kind of get out in the room and then I look around. And that house, it was the daytime. I'm not comfortable to stay there in that house. So what I do, I leave the house.
So I actually just got off the phone with my mom right now, like I always do before I film any of these paranormal videos. But this time, when I got on the phone with her to ask her a question about the house, she got really upset with me. And it's weird because at first she was okay with me telling you guys these stories, but now she's not. I don't know if she just doesn't like thinking about these things anymore, or if she just doesn't like our personal family stories told. I don't know, but me personally, I'm a very open book. I share a lot of my life with you guys. So I guess out of respect to her, I'm not going to be calling her and putting her in these videos anymore like I did in part 1 and part 2. So I'm gonna have to start bringing in Chris, who is my fiance, into these videos as a witness to these terrifying and horrific events that occurred in my parents' haunted home. If this is the first video that you're watching in this series, I shared in part 1 and part 2 how the terrifying events in my home started, which got so bad that we had to contact a local paranormal research group, also known as ghost hunters, to come to our house and see what was going on. And of course, in part 1 and part 2, you will see the calls with my mom and my aunt of them personally telling you an account of their own direct encounters with a strong paranormal entity in the house that didn't leave them alone, which is what caused my aunt, who was living with my parents at this time, to leave the house every time that nobody was home, and eventually moved out earlier than what she needed because of what this ghost or whatever was doing to her. So if you guys haven't seen those videos, I highly suggest watching part 1 and part 2, then coming back to this video so that everything is in order. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on the video. So today in part 3, I'm going to be talking about the time that I realized that my daughter was seeing something that we couldn't see. Before I tell you about the time that my fiance and I realized that our daughter was seeing something beyond our visual abilities, I'd first like to explain the scientific theory behind why young children and babies are able to see past our physical world and dimension. Now, adult humans can only see 400 to 700 nanometers on the electromagnetic spectrum. UVA light, where the paranormal world is said to sit, falls just below visual light at 400 to 315 nanometers. So in layman's terms, that means what you are able to see in this world is quite limited. And there are a lot of things that are happening just outside of your vision that you will never witness. But here's where it gets interesting. Young kids and babies visually see at 380 nanometers, putting their visual abilities precisely within the range of the paranormal world. Now on this evening, Chris and I were sitting at the bottom of the staircase, putting our daughter Lexiny's shoes and jacket on because we were all getting ready to leave the house and go out for dinner with my parents and sisters. Now our daughter Lexiny was only around 3 years old at this time. And if you don't know, kids at this age are already able to make out full sentences. Now Lexiny finally has her shoes and her jacket on and is now sitting in between Chris and I at the bottom of the staircase. And we're all just waiting for my mom to come downstairs so that we can all leave. And so I turn to my right to say something to Chris, and I notice that Lexiny's eyes are looking up and are very fixated on the top of the staircase. And of course, my first instinct is to turn around, look up, and see what she's looking at. And I don't see anything up there. But when I turn back around to Lex, she says, "Dirty man." Chris and my eyes immediately met because we both heard what Lexiny said. And we're both staring. And we're both staring. and we're both staring at each other for a few moments with the squint in our eyes as if to say, did she just say what I think she said? Without having to say it out loud because we didn't want to scare Lexini. So Chris just says to Lexini, what did you say, baby? And she looks at Chris and repeats, dirty man, then turns around and points her finger up at the top of the staircase. Chris and I, of course, are scanning every inch of the top of this staircase, trying hard to find this man that our daughter is so convinced is up there. This, unfortunately, wasn't the only time that my daughter experienced something. So a few years went by, and as you guys know, Chris, Lexini, and I would visit my parents at their home frequently, and we even sometimes spent the night there, mostly when my parents wanted to go out for the evening and they needed somebody to watch my sisters. So one night, my parents left to go somewhere overnight, and Chris, Lexini, and I stayed upstairs to watch the girls, which upstairs was also where we all slept. The next morning, Lexini was the first one to wake up, so she went to the library, which was at the top of the staircase, sat on the floor, and started playing with my sister's kittens. As Lexini sat playing for the next few minutes, she started to hear some shuffling downstairs, followed by the slamming of a door. So Lexini assumed that one of my sisters had woken up early and was already downstairs. So Lexini, of course, wanted to go downstairs to see if one of my sisters wanted to play with her. So Lexini first went to the kitchen where she thought she heard the noise come from. She didn't see anyone there. She checked the garage, the living room, the family room, and the downstairs bedroom looking for my sisters. Nobody was down there. Lexini came back upstairs, peeked into my sister's bedroom, and realized that everybody was still asleep. I remember Lexini waking me and Chris up, forcing her way into our bed, telling us that she heard the door slam downstairs and when she went down there, nobody was there. Now, I am a very overprotective mother. Even though my daughter is now 13 years old, I still don't expose her to scary movies or anything that can terrify her. So you know that even though we had all this paranormal activity going on at my parents' house, we always tried to shield her from it because we just didn't want her to be afraid. And it's just like when somebody doesn't know what's going on but tells you an account of their own experience before they even found out your place was haunted. What do you say to that? But I'm just going to leave the third part of my haunted house series right here. But before I do, I wanted to let you guys in on a little bit of what I discovered while researching the history of the land that my parents' home was built on. As you know from part 1 of this series, my parents' home was a brand new home built in a brand new community called Wild Wings in Woodland, California. What's interesting is that based upon my research, I discovered that we weren't the only ones in our neighborhood that was experiencing paranormal activity in our home. I actually found a website called ghostsofamerica.com where anyone in the United States is able to report any paranormal activity that is happening in their homes. Well, I was not only able to confirm that we weren't the only ones in our Wild Wings community that was experiencing terrifying paranormal activity, but I was able to confirm that several of our neighbors were experiencing very similar activity that we were experiencing. As you can see from the reports, the similar experiences were uncanny. Here, someone named John writes, I used to live on Pintail in Wild Wings, and we experienced toilets flushing on their own, doors opening and slamming, footsteps, bulbs popping, always cold, bothered during sleep, voices, and always would find pennies in the corner of our house. I moved out fast and was wondering if anyone has experienced anything in Wild Wings. Another person by the name of Carrick writes, I've heard several different stories about Wild Wings' home having activity. There were many Indian burial grounds where there are fields and houses now, so it's possible that Wild Wings is built on one. My dad told me a story about a Portuguese field worker he knew when he was a kid. He used to work for Stevens Ranch, and there was a particular field out here by Esparto that he refused to do work in because he said he can hear spirits talking to him and see them sometimes. Well, it turns out later they found out there was a burial ground on the property in that very field. You can only imagine my reaction when I read those posts for the first time. It was nice to sort of have that feeling of confirmation to the questions that I've always asked. But asking neighbors if they're experiencing anything paranormal in their home is not really something that you want to ask. We would have never known if we were the only ones experiencing this activity in our house if it wasn't for this website. Now, regarding the history of this land, I will get into all the details that I discovered in the final chapter of this haunted house series, where I will tell you the official and historically documented records about the truth of what lays underneath the Wild Wings community. And when you find out, it's gonna chill you to the bone. So just make sure that you are subscribed and make sure that you hit the notification button as well so that you are instantly notified as soon as I upload that video. Just know, as I end this video, that I still haven't even explained the worst encounters that we had. Because although we didn't see who the dirty man was at the time, eventually we came face to face with him. And I promise you there's nothing more terrifying. All right, my darlings, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see part 4 of my haunted house series, make sure that you hit the like button and comment down below that you want part 4, because the more likes and comments that I get on this video, I will know how badly you guys want to see the next video. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and do a challenge. If you guys can get this video to 1,500 likes a week from now. All right, my darlings, don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to my channel by hitting the red button down below and hit the notification button as well. That way you're notified of all the videos on my channel, including these horrific and terrifying storytime videos. If you guys do enjoy these videos and other storytime videos, I'll have a couple of different playlist links down below in the description bar so you can storytime binge on my channel. As always, I love you darlings very much, and I'll talk to you later. Bye darlings. Mwah!